Okay, folks, a couple of weeks ago, there was a Republican in Florida, or who at least was visiting Florida, who was complaining about Disney World and how they had taken certain elements out of their rides that were based on certain quote unquote problematic movies. And one of those problematic movies was Song of the South. Now, I'd heard about Song of the South, but this was not a movie that I'd ever actually seen as a child. I did have one of these book and record things, and this may be going way over the heads of my younger viewers, but they actually, back when they had, before there were iPods, before there were CDs, before there were even cassette tapes, there were these vinyl records that were 45 speed, a 45 RPM. And you could actually buy books that were, comic book based or children's storybook based that had a 45 vinyl record in it that you could play along and then you could read along as the person was narrating. So you had, yeah, I had one of those as a child, but I never saw the movie myself. So every time that I've heard people complain about Song of the South, I've never had any kind of reference in my own mind to be able to go back and say, "Oh yeah, that was a problematic movie. Oh yeah, that was a really racist movie or something like that," because I'd never seen it. So I decided to watch it, and I'm not going to put a link to it in the video description because I don't know whether the link is kosher or not. But if you look up Internet Archive Song of the South, you will be able to find it. I was not able to find it as part of my Disney Plus subscription. I mean, go figure. But at the same time, it seems kind of like Disney minus if you're not going to give me all the movies that Disney has. Uh, so I had to go online in order to find it there. So do look that up if you want to watch the movie. I watched the movie, and I was especially looking out to see what was problematic about it. And the movie is about a young boy named Johnny, and his father and mother are having some sort of either marital dispute or a dispute over money, and it's all resulting in the father's having to go off to Atlanta, Georgia to take care of the business, and he's leaving his wife and his son with a grandmother who has this plantation, and there are sharecroppers, black sharecroppers, and white sharecroppers on this plantation. Uh, so Johnny, distressed over the fact that his father has basically left him, uh, seeks comfort from the stories of a wise old black man named Uncle Remus. And Uncle Remus tells him stories about a cartoon rabbit named Brer Rabbit. And Brer Rabbit gets into these misadventures that also have moral lessons to them, talking about not being able to run away from your problems, things about how to use your enemy's worst intentions against him. But it's stories that give solutions that Johnny can then adapt into his own life and use against the people who are troubling him, like the neighborhood bullies, who are poor sharecroppers' kids, and who torment him throughout the course of the film. So Song of the South, I'm watching this movie, and I'm trying to figure out what about this movie is racist. Now, of course, it's set in the Old South, so you do see these, rich white plantation owners, and you have the poor white sharecroppers, and you have the poor black sharecroppers, and I'm trying to look. I mean, the black people are in subservient roles where you have the black nanny to the boy. You have a young black boy who is assigned to be the boy's friend for the time that he's staying on the plantation and show him around and keep him safe from things like the rampaging bull that's off in one of the fields. Um, but when you look at all of the race relations in the film, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing rude where they're being, the white people are being rude to the black people, or the black people being angry with the white people. You don't see racial disharmony. You don't see any sort of conflict or ill messaging that would lead you to believe that there is some sort of racial conflict going on that is oppressive to the blacks beyond just the fact that they're in a sharecropper state and some of the white people are not. It just seemed to be kind of a slice of life type movie, and so I asked my friends what was, or people I knew anyway, not necessarily all friends, but what was the problem with Song of the South? And there was only one person who kept harping on the fact that the plantation scene was idealized. That was her continual complaint, was that it idealized and glorified the plantation days. I didn't see that. I didn't see any such idealization or glorification because, number one, the rich people in the movie still had their problems. They had money problems. They had this problem that caused the family to break up. There was this tension in the home, and the child was unhappy. So it's not like the rich people were, problem free, which I would think would be true of any kind of idealized setting. The black people in the movie, yeah, they had their sing alongs and they had songs to comfort themselves, but you kind of knew that it was self comfort. It's like being poor was no picnic, and you could see the squalid conditions in which some of them were living. So I don't think that there was any sort of idealization. It's not like they had, the black people living in, perfectly great, all amenities houses. The only thing that I could see that was quote unquote idealized or glorified was the race relations, in that nobody was being angry with one another. Nobody was hating on one another. And the more that she complained about the idealization and glorification of the plantation setting, and the more that she elaborated on it, I came to realize that that was the problem. The fact that Song of the South does not show black people in conflict with white people. Because all the time she would bring up, well, how is it that there is so much income inequality or wealth inequality between the blacks and the whites? How is it that there's, which, if you look at the movie, there's income inequality between whites and other whites too. So that just wasn't an issue. It wasn't one of the main problems of the movie. There was, why is it that the black people got along so well with the white people? Could they get out of line with the white people? What about the Jim Crow laws that were in place at the time? And I'm just looking at this woman's complaints and thinking to myself that, my God, in a children's movie whose main thrust is to show how the wisdom of the elders passed down to the children can help them in their lives, and wisdom of the elders passed down not just within one's own family, but outside of one's own family tradition. I mean, that to me is one of the least racist kind of perspectives that you could put into a children's film, and it was exactly that this person was having a problem with. Because to show that kind of racial harmony, where you didn't have class envy, where you didn't have racial animus, to show a world where black people and white people could live together in some kind of harmony, was anathema to her. She wanted a world, she did not want to see a world depicted in which black people and white people, rich and poor, could all get along. And I don't know how to address the kind of sickness that would want that kind of disharmony, that kind of disunity among peoples portrayed in a children's movie. Because these children's movies, the point of children's movies more often than not, is to teach some sort of lesson that's going to help kids who are watching the movie. They can emulate these lessons. In fact, that's exactly what Song of the South was about. Here you had a small child with problems. This small child hears these stories, kind of like we're watching movies. Today's kids are watching these movies, and this kid is hearing these stories that are helping him to figure out what to do in his life. And by emulating the behavior of the heroic character in the stories, he's able to better adapt to his own life and his own problems. That's what children's stories are for. And imagine that now you have this whole group of people out there, the left, who want children's stories that foment discontent, that foment hatred. They don't want to see depictions of unity. They don't want to see depictions of people living together in a state of harmony where race doesn't matter, where class doesn't matter, where people just treat one another like people. You have people who don't want to see that. What do you even do with that kind of group of people who who look at that kind of programming to say, hey, you should really treat everyone just like you'd be treated, and think, oh, that's wrong. Oh, no, 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 that's wrong. And if you understand that there are people out there like that, you understand just what a threat this whole like critical race theory thing is. Because critical race theory is based on the idea that, you need to take someone's skin color into account to determine how you are going to treat that person. And, Song of the South, that just doesn't come into play. How a person looks on the outside, what that person's racial descent is, Song of the South just doesn't care. And that is why the left hates it. Not because it's racist, but because it's not. I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for listening, and do check out the movie Song of the South. It's a decent movie. I came away kind of enjoying it. If you like more movies like this, please do subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Did I say movies? Did I actually say if you want more movies like this? Because this is not a movie. You understand this is not a movie, right? This is a video. Oh, God. Every once in a while, slip of the tongue. I'll talk to you later.